Quaid Azam, Part 239. Despite the caution on the occasion, Linlithgow persisted and carried his proposal through. Therefore, as reconstituted in the summer of 1941, the Viceroy's executive included Commander-in-Chief, 3 official British members for Home, Finance and Communications, and now 8 Indians. For the first time, Indians formed a majority in the council. But this was an empty numerical satisfaction, for the constitution of the Government of India remained unaltered and no portfolios actually got transferred to any Indian. The Viceroy retained his special responsibilities for peace and tranquility, financial stability, the minorities in respect of which he was required to act in accordance with his individual judgment. The National Defence Council remained essentially an advisory body to bring the war effort in the province and the states, as well as in the ranks of the commerce, industry and labour, into more direct and effective touch with the central government. It had 22 British Indians, mostly drawn from the provincial legislatures, and 9 members from the states. Though Churchill considered the reconstruction of the executive, he was totally immovable when the question of Britain's aims in relation to India re-emerged. The occasion was his parliamentary speech on the Roosevelt-Churchill Atlantic Charter, signed at sea in August 1941. Article 3 of the Charter expressed the right of all people to choose the form of the government under which they will live. It was significant that not even the advice of the US Ambassador, Guy Venant, to whom he sent an advance copy of his proposed speech, could influence him. Venant believed that the passage denying the application of the article to India would simply intensify the charges of imperialism and leave Great Britain in the position of a do-nothing policy. Churchill refused to modify the passage. On 9 September 1941, he told the House of Commons that the article applied only to the European nations under Nazi rule. It did not relate to the development of the constitutional government in India, Burma, or other parts of the empire. The progressive evolution of self-governing institutions in the regions and the peoples who owe allegiance to the British Crown was to be distinguished from the emancipation of Europe from Nazism. He affirmed paradoxically this Atlantic Charter speech sharpened resentment, and few could recall a wider gulf between Britain and India than that which now emerged. The Cripps mission, yet no sooner had the offensive to Indian sensibilities, Atlantic Charter, been enunciated by Churchill in Commons, then suddenly events acquired a fateful momentum. Within weeks of that policy speech of 9 September 1941, USS Arizona was sunk in Pearl Harbor by the Japanese aircraft. From this one surprise action of the daring, 2 consequences of great significance followed in rapid succession. The enormous industrial, technological, financial and military power of the US joined the hands with the Allies in the war effort. The US too was now at war. And secondly, the Second World War now having come to Asia. Suddenly, India's strategic centrality in this fight against Japanese forces got sharply focused. The invading Japanese forces moved with startling speed, almost as a grim reminder of early advances of German troops in Europe. One country after another fell against their relentless assaults, and then a month and a half after Pearl Harbor, on 15 February 1942, General Percival, Commander-in-Chief of the British forces in Singapore, surrendered to General Yamashita of the Japanese invading forces. Suddenly, Burma, now Myanmar, was now vulnerable, as was Rangoon. And then was it to be India? Could India too actually now face an invasion from the east? Field Marshal Lord Ellenbroke noted gloomingly in his diary of that date, 12 February 1942, "We are paying very heavily now for failing to face the insurance premiums essential for security of an empire." This has usually been the main cause for the loss of the empire in the past. They presciently forecast a beginning of the end of the British Empire. Besides, this loss of Singapore was a crushing blow to the Allied morale. It was eventually regained, but at a very heavy cost for the imperial spirit of old was never recaptured by the British after this.